Officially, I am President and CEO of Medilink Network. Unofficially, I am the Chief Geek and Imagineer. But I have a slight correction to Richard's story. I'm not, unlike Miko and Mr. Lim, I am not the founder of Medilink. This was founded by my father back in 1999. However, I did join the company in 2005 as employee number 7. And I'd like to think that we helped to establish and grow it such that it is now scalable and sustainable. We are a health tech company focused on enabling efficient, accessible, and affordable care. And unless you operate in the healthcare space, you've probably never heard of us, for good reason, because we operate on a white label basis. Altogether, our clients represent the largest HMOs and insurance companies in the country. And together, they serve about 2.5 million active lives here in the Philippines. I'm here to talk to you not about industry jargon or geeky solutions, but about health, because it affects us all. If we are serious about becoming a first world country, health is something we need to pay attention to, because a healthy country is a competitive country and is a productive country. Health is the ultimate public good. See, if everyone's healthy, it makes for smooth sailing for all of us. But at the same time, it is also a public bad. So when someone is sick, you never really suffer alone. Not only is an individual sick, but usually the family members suffer with them, either financially and or emotionally. There is nothing worse that we work in the health industry, and there's nothing worse than having to decline a transaction and knowing that the person who you're declining the transaction for will either forego treatment or will bankrupt themselves getting treated. Now, one thing we need to pay attention to is there's writing on the wall. In East Asia, 1/3 of that economic miracle is attributed to good health of the population. But likewise, in sub-Saharan Africa, high HIV infection rates have kind of hampered their economic growth and have perpetuated a cycle of poverty. Now, in the Philippines, things are looking good for us now, but we have some of the highest HIV infection growth rates in the world. So if you look at our stats from last year, it grew nearly 20%. And if you compare to the stats of 2007, our HIV infection rates grew over 3,000%. Now, if we turn our attention now to lifestyle diseases, okay. It used to be that the general pattern is that we essentially stay quite well until near expiration, that steep decline right there, right before death. Unfortunately, we are seeing earlier and earlier incidences of disease. So, based on our healthcare claims data, we are seeing early incidence of lifestyle diseases such as hypertension and diabetes, even among populations who are in their 20s. And in fact, when I was speaking with an endocrinologist, the youngest diabetes patient this doctor had ever seen was someone who was 8 years old. And that really speaks to the sustainability of the lifestyle that we have, always on, eating a lot of processed food, sedentary lifestyle. The economics of healthcare is that in the early stages, disease is asymptomatic and it's still fun. But in the later stages, not only is it not fun, it is also very expensive. The average hospitalization is about 25,000 pesos for about a 3-night stay at a hospital here in Metro Manila. And if you could just think of what you could do with 25,000, I'm sure there's lots of other good things you can do, like maybe travel or, at any rate, sickness is not only not fun, it is expensive, and it's a total loss, because what we call health care is actually sick care. Now, ironically, if we were well, we don't need to spend for health. Or if we do spend, it'll be very cheap, because preventive care is cheap. The industry that deals with all this is the healthcare ecosystem. The industry does not reduce risk, it simply prices and reallocates risk. So the only people who can eliminate risks are ourselves by living healthy lifestyles. Now, absent that, the industry takes what's given and it will price that risk, and that will translate into your health premium, whether it's paid to an HMO or an insurance company. The industry will also try to allocate that risk so that the burden is not on any single one individual, and instead it's spread out to different groups. And then the industry will serve up that demand by building up capacity in terms of the facilities, the doctors, the nurses to serve that need. In this kind of setup, there are a bit of weird incentives. So let me just explain each of the stakeholders. Of course, there's the patient, and we can relate with that. The providers are the doctors, the facilities, the nurses and all. Payers are entities that pay. So this might be an HMO, an insurance company. If you're self-insured, it'd be yourself or an employer. And then to a certain degree, the government plays a part in all of this, in that it provides payments through PhilHealth. It maintains health facilities such as the government hospitals and clinics. And then there's, of course, the NGOs or other charitable institutions. In a setup like this, there are agency problems in that the person who is availing of the service may not be the entity that's paying for it. So the perverse incentive arises when a facility or a doctor may want to overtreat or overcharge because anyway, the individual is not the one paying for it. The patient may not be very price sensitive because, again, there's a third party paying for it. And that works well for low levels of utilization. So if you have a huge limit and some portion of that is wasted, so to speak, it doesn't really matter. But it really matters when you get gravely ill and you need a major hospitalization and your limit has already been used up. So I think the mentality that, you know, if you've got health insurance, you've got to really use it up because otherwise it's sayang. That doesn't really work because it's going to come and hit you the next year. Anyways, what we try to do is we simplify transactions for the health ecosystem. It's a complex ecosystem and there are lots of point-to-point interactions. But we try to simplify it such that they only need to know that they're dealing with us. So do we just provide the infrastructure or the highway? No, because we need to provide value-added services on top of that. There are three main key stakeholders, and the first stakeholder that we need to pay attention to is the patient. The patient needs to be able to experience convenience because they're already sick. You don't want them to do too many things. We also want to make sure that we enforce some know your customer, and ensure that that limit is not used by someone else or lost to fraud. For providers, before they serve a patient, we make sure that they know they're going to get paid for it. And for the payer, we make sure that they're getting their money's worth because we're able to redirect transactions to facilities that are more efficient in treating certain conditions. And likewise, we also help them understand the trends and prepare for potential pricing issues that will be upcoming the following year. I'm sure even now it's hard to picture what we do, but I think this sums it up simply. We try to do for healthcare what ATMs have done for banking. With healthcare, you're not really withdrawing per se, but you are using up your health benefit, which is a withdrawal, something like a withdrawal. And the ATM does not replace a bank. It doesn't do everything that a teller can do, but the simple transactions are available 24/7 through the ATM. And that's what we hope our systems achieve. Now, to make that terminal work, we follow the roles that are inherent in the payment industry. So a cardholder is called a member, either a principal or a dependent. The issuer is an HMO or an insurance company. And the merchants are providers and facilities. And we provide payment processing. We started life as a company as the ultimate recycled business. Back in the 1990s, for those who might remember, the payment networks, Visa and MasterCard, had new security standards that rendered thousands of terminals obsolete. And rather than throw them away, we thought we would repurpose these machines for healthcare, because the terminals had to be secure for payment settlement transactions. They didn't really have to be secure for authorizations. So in banking, you would look at the open to buy and approve a transaction if there's sufficient open to buy. But in healthcare, you would look at other parameters, such as, was the premium paid? Is the coverage still in effect? Does the patient have access to that facility? Then we moved on to payments. And then after payments, the clients asked us to help them build a system that would determine whether something should be paid, how to pay it, to whom it should be paid. So we built a payer enterprise system that included underwriting, customer service, claims processing, and billing. Thereafter, we needed to facilitate client self-service, so we built portals. Then there were, if you recall the MIS reports of the day, they were large Excel files, and it was hard to read and hard to figure out trends, so we helped our clients to visualize their trends and forecast. And then we had to turn to machine learning because we simply did not have the manual capacity to deal with all of the transactions that were coming through. So this is okay, I guess, is it? Can someone click that for me? All right, this gives you a flavor for the different portals that we manage. MemberLink is a mobile app that's used by members. DentalLink is used for administering dental benefits. ProviderLink is used by hospitals and clinics for authorization and claim submission. AccountLink, by its name, is used by corporations, groups, families, individuals to access their accounts on a group portfolio basis. And this is a kiosk that's designed for member self-service. So like any company, we have growth challenges. One is recruiting. One of the hardest things you do in the back office is having to adjudicate a claim. And typically, we hire allied medical professionals to do that. And these would be people who have a nursing or a PT background or med tech. And that's because there's a lot of gray areas when it comes to determining whether a claim should be approved or paid or not, because there are inner limits, there are comorbidities, there's determination of whether something is congenital or acquired. And then there's always the issue of engaging those people, because you need them to be awake and engaged and paying attention for every transaction. Every transaction is different. And let's face it, it's still, even today, very attractive to go abroad, because you can make orders of magnitude more than you would here. The challenge we're facing is that when we have the same claim evaluated by different people, 40% of the time the results are different. That's because when we decide, we bring our experience, apply patterns, and then we pull out, we weight values differently in order to come to a decision. So what we thought we'd do is, if you have a claim presented to person A and person B, and the results are different, one of them is going to be wrong. And if you're going to be wrong 40% of the time, why not let the machine do it? Then you can be either consistently right or consistently wrong, but you can have post-audit later to figure out what went wrong and then fix it systemically. So that's basically what we did. We started implementing this, and then we wrote it up in a case. The result was that even if the machine is not 100% accurate, whatever you lose in terms of overpayment, you gain because we're able to process things very quickly and maximize our prompt payment discounts. So in the end, it's worth it. Our team was recognized at the International Innovation Awards in Shanghai last December because of this. And probably because of that work, we also got other recognitions in the industry. Some were for the company, some were directed at me. And I'm trying to figure out, process all this and try to understand what led to that success. The first point I want to make, if you don't remember anything else from this talk, I hope you remember this. There is a quote attributed to Mark Twain, which goes, "There are two important days of your life. One is the day you were born, and the other day is when you realize why." And I think companies go through something like this as well. Over the years, we're not a startup, and we've gone through so many things. We could have chosen to go different paths, but I think the filter that we use to determine whether we want to move forward with a new service is, does it help? It's not, do we make a lot of money? Yes, we're not a charity. We try to do well by doing good. But will it, help our industry move further in terms of providing efficiency and access and cost effectiveness? Because health insurance is a universal human need. But unfortunately, it is a privilege because it is really expensive. Not everyone can afford health protection. And we'd like to think that the services that we promote and move forward with are things that help bring us closer to that ideal. Now, secondly, there is another quote by Mark Anthony, which goes, "If you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life." And for me personally, I've been a dental assistant, if you can believe that. I've been a programmer. I've been a sous chef. I've been a consultant. But through and through, I'm a geek. And this is what I'm meant to be. And this is what makes my work fun. Next, it takes a village. And I'm sure it's a cliche, but I'd like to think that our success is wholly attributed to the grace of God. It's not, I wish I could say we did things right. It's vision or strategy or execution. But we've also done so many things wrong that I'm surprised we are where we are today. And I'd like to recognize that fantastic team over at that table. Pinette is our COO, Rosemary Accounts Management, Ray with technology, June B, deployment, Chris, accounting. These are people I can trust with my eyes closed. And we go to, that's what makes work interesting every day, is I get to work with people like that who are professional, who are good at what they do, and we can trust them implicitly. Next, we pace for a series of sprints, not a marathon. As proud as I am of what we've achieved over the years, I think I'm prouder still that the back of the resume, I can say I have a marriage that's still intact and thriving after 18 years. I have kids who are a family who's imperfect, but in general happy and coping well. There is no amount of success at work that would make up for failure at home, I think. And innovation is never done, and we don't have a patent on good ideas. Like the other entrepreneurs before me, there's just so much room for our country to grow, and we need to dig in and discover those ideas and share them and work together. And hopefully we'll be a first world country in no time. Thank you very much.